I think circularity in plastics is really important when we talk about how to go about managing the plastic waste, which is the most important topic globally today. With this, I think the council, International Council, which I represent today for circular economy, is based on three tenets, which is educate, innovate, and inspire. Our work largely incorporates the education, research, and innovation around this subject. This is a famous diagram. I'm sure we all are joining after post lunch, and I would not like to make very long talks, which will be difficult for people to grasp at the moment. But I'm sure a lot of you would have gone through this simplistic diagrams, which is linear versus circular economy, and how the linear economy is extremely wasteful economy, where the emissions leading from the linear systems have led to the increase in the global temperatures as well as the climate change. On the other hand, the circular economy promises the reusage of the existing resources in such a way that this entire system becomes regenerative, and we are able to concentrate more with the existing resources, produce more value out of same resources again and again. So coming back to the plastics, which again, as in India, we talk about it, we know that the plastic generated, I'm presenting some figures which most of you would have gone through. This is the CPCB report, the Central Pollution Control Board report of 2018 and 19, which says that there is an almost 3.36 million metric tons of plastic that was produced per annum. That was the plastic waste. Out of the total of the municipal solid waste of 55 to 65 million metric tons, and that purely shows that the metric shows that plastic waste is hardly 5 to 6% of the total waste that is generated in our country. If I look at per capita waste generation, I am comparing two states. One is Goa, which is India's richest state, produces almost 60 grams per capita per day, whereas comparing it with Delhi, which has a very huge population, the per capita comes to 37 grams. The national average of waste production being only 8 grams per day per capita. So why I'm coming to a national average is to kind of understand, is plastic such a big problem? And why are we talking about the elimination of plastic from the entire thing? Before we move forward to understand what is the issue with the plastics, I would like to discuss about the stakeholders in the game. As again, the CPCB and the EPR policy explains, we call them as PIBOs. The producers, the brand owners, and importers of plastic items are the major ones who are responsible for managing the plastic waste under the EPR policy, the Extended Producer Responsible Policy in India. Then comes the local bodies, which are our authorities, whether it is the collection one, the segregation for storage of the plastic waste, transportation, and all these authorities are directly or indirectly stakeholders in the game of the plastic. And last is the waste generator, is the individual who is using plastic, like us, you, who are using plastic day in and day out. And we don't have a very let's say a good alternate to plastics at the moment. So what is the problem when we talk about plastic waste? Is it the plastic itself the problem, or is it the elimination of plastic? I personally believe it is the elimination, as our relationship with plastic goes many decades back. Plastic is a versatile material, and many times it is called a wonder polymer, no doubt, because the kind of properties that it brings has its own values. And right now, though there is a lot of innovation and work going around plastics, a suitable material that could meet almost every single quality of plastic or characteristics of plastic, if I can say so, is yet to be developed, which could be biodegradable or maybe not harming the environment as much as we want to. Coming back to the diagram, we understand these are called material flows. And if we look at the current material flow of plastics, today we see that the plastic and the packaging material is largely linear. We are producing from the virgin stocks, and a lot of it enters the landfill at the end of the cycle. There are some other innovations that are happening, be it pyrolysis, be it through pyrolysis, the recovery, or maybe use of certain bioplastics or materials that are being innovated. But still, largely, a lot of plastic that we're talking about either lands in landfills or is discarded without proper elimination. What do we need is a circular approach where the focus should be to reduce the dependence on the virgin stock and reuse the existing stock. I understand there are a lot many technological barriers, or let's say the chemical barriers. Also, the LCA may not be supporting a lot to the circular approach, but I'm sure with the existing and current practices, we will definitely find a solution to this problem as well. Uh, you were mentioning about how to go circular in this plastic management sector, waste management sector, and there I bring in the information on circularity as to what circularity is and how the principles of circular economy can help the plastic waste sector and the plastic industry to become more circular in nature. So as you were also suggesting about the inner loops, we know that circular economy is based on the loop system, where there is a closed loop approach by the manufacturer, and they shift the focus towards the beginning of the cycle, and they understand how the material that they are producing will be reused, will be reshared or remanufactured before it goes out of the material loops. The shorter the material loops, the shorter the cycles, and the closer the cycles, I think the circularity is stronger and the value proposition is stronger. So as we see in the famous butterfly diagram of Ellen MacArthur, we see that the shorter the loops and thinner the loops, the better it is for the environment, because then and what this also signify is that we need to have a decentralized approach. The more we go towards the centralizing the issue, I think the carbon footprint, the emissions will be hardly reduced, will not be able to achieve the outcome that we are looking at. This also means that we also need to concentrate and think about the new business models. Now, these new business models, when we start thinking about it, has to be designed in such a way that we keep all the stakeholders in the in the arena. In the emerging economies, the applications of reverse logistic, especially India, is still in its preliminary stage. The reasons could be myriad. I think the volume of generation that we're talking about of waste, lack of awareness of the concept at times, lack of awareness of segregation at source could also be one of the reasons. There need to be a study on the reverse logistic in the developing countries like India. Stakeholders involvement in the waste management process is essential for the well-being of the country. Stakeholders are players in reverse logistics, which includes waste generation, municipal corporation, and the producers as well. So these kind of business models are only going to help us manage our waste at the end of life cycle. While we talk about the loops and the business model, one important concept that emerges out here is the concept of shifting the onus of the products to a more service-based models. The more we rely on the notion that the customers will need models like the rental model or the subscription models, leasing or resharing and reusing models, rather than buying up the new products. Thereby, the business models that need to emerge will focus more towards elongating the life of or utilization of a product rather than forcing more products into the market. So we are designing out waste by the virtue of reusing the existing materials rather than producing more materials. Then we talk about, when we were talking about the extension of life of the products, another important thing is designing the products in such a way that they last long. And this can only happen when we have more durable products, which are both physically tensile and They are modular in their approach. They are easily repairable or recyclable at the end of their life cycle so that they last long, and the environmental impact of these products is lesser and can be controlled easily. Another very important concept in circularity is the material choices that we make. And how these material choices help is because not all materials, they fit well into circular economy. A more complex material, a combination of materials, it's difficult to recycle because the segregation of material at the end of the life cycle sometimes becomes very difficult. In such a case, monomaterials have find their own significance in circularity. While we talk about this, it is important that singular uh, virgin materials or singular materials be used for safe and more circular approach by offering better product and services which is created within the circular economy domain. The other thing that is essential to understand is that if we are looking at a circular approach for any sector, because circularity, when we talk about it, is sector agnostic. Today we are speaking about plastics, but irrespective of that, for any sector that we talk about, the one most important thing of bringing in circularity is by reducing the demand of the virgin material, thereby reducing the resource requirement. And this can happen only when the products at the end of life cycle are brought back into the system by one or the other way. That means resource recovery, uh, minimum material loss possible, and models and innovation, and I think research here plays an extremely important role, so that we can start designing our products and services in such a way that the physical material loss is least and we keep the value in the loop, value of the products within the loop. Another very important concept that is circular, that relates to circularity, is the design for modularity. Modular design is a useful strategy for making products easier to repair, remanufacture, and upgrade. By making it easy to remove only a part or a product of it, it makes it very easy to disassemble, lowering the cost and effort to swap out components when they are damaged. Let's take the example of electronic waste, be it mobile phones or let's say the TVs. If they are built in such a way that we can remove one specific module or a component of it and repair them out, it becomes very easy to kind of elongate the life of that entire product. Similar kind of, I'm reading how repair cafes are becoming very important. And while we talk about the concept of repair cafes, I think it is also important to include modularity right from the design phase. So again, once again, the focus is shifting towards the designing phase, and we are involving more of systems thinking rather than looking at the end of life cycle, which is more towards recycling. But in circularity, we will be focusing more on the systems approach. And that is where modularity plays an extremely important role for the recovery of material and component. Another thing, while we are looking at it, there are policies not only in India but also abroad, and there are many policies, be it for the Green Dot, the EU Green Deal, it may be the EPR and the further policies that are coming in India, which need supply chain transformations. This, in a linear economy, the companies usually were focusing on production and pushing more and more product uh, into the economies, and not concentrating towards what is happening at the end of life cycle. But with the changes, I think the important thing that is happening is we need to kind of look at also the transformation where the supply chains goes circular. There is a entire reverse supply chain that has to be built in right from your product design phase. So in India, the supply chain needs to be not only improved, but there is a whole lot of infrastructural changes that are required. There is a three-way segregation that needs to be done so that we can integrate the entire process into proper supply chain, and also integrate them into the resource recovery and the material recovery systems. Segregation, again, I think is a very big issue in India, where if the materials are not segregated, they are soiled and they could not be pulled back. And a lot of times when we talk to the industry, the complaints are that we don't get a clear material that could be recycled or reused. And that is where I think the material recovery facilities, which are now being deployed by the ULBs at a very decentralized level, play a very important role. And such a kind of decentralized material recovery facilities are a very good step and should be taken further. Uh, and introducing reverse supply chain is the most important and a critical decision for every organization, every company that is working towards circularity. In India, we know that there is EPR in plastic waste since 2016. A lot of it happens, the EPR happens on the public-private partnership. There are PROs, there are organizations, the PIBOs, who have to implement that. And beyond this, we have also seen a lot of corporate social responsibility getting traction towards EPR. But at the same time, while we talk about this, I think the importance is also in looking at shifting the focus of plastic waste management. Uh, Internationally, if I talk about what is happening in this domain, we see a lot of innovation and designing happening using some kind of natural materials. As Yale University came up with a species of mushroom that was used and was capable of digesting plastic. And there have been more and more efforts across the globe to produce decomposition materials and deploy processes in place that could lead to decomposition of plastics in the much safer and environmentally friendly manner. But I think these are far and few practices, and this needs to take more of a global approach. On the other hand, in India, while I work with industry, we also see that there are a lot of tracking and a lot of integration of IT, for to say, technological interventions that have come in, which have helped or are helping in tracking the waste, which plays, I think, the foremost role. Unless we have the data points, unless we have the data around the waste, where it is produces and how it could be managed, I think that plays a very, very important role. And these are some very welcome move in India. There are few startups are using new technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 3D printing, even blockchain has given some disruptive solutions to the management of plastic, as well as other ways for that sake. And I think these practices and these uh, evolving entrepreneurs, as I could say, will change the waste management sector and make the sector more circular. So data analytics, as I was talking, is important. Unless we have the data in place, it is difficult to manage the things. So one thing that I found while I was working on a project related to the cities is that while we have a lot of system in place, let's say there are systems to manage the legacy waste, then there are systems to manage the current waste. There may be even the material recovery facility. One thing that uh, needs to be improved or needs better efficiency is the data. A lot of times I have one problem that we have seen, at least, is data is lacking. The right numbers are lacking, and it's not being documented properly. So perhaps any technological intervention that could help us manage these better will be helpful in managing the entire waste management sector in India. This is a very old diagram that I'm sharing with you. It was released by Accenture in 2018, which compares the business as usual, the way we are running, as compared to the circular business models. If India were to move towards the circular business models by 2030, and they say that its risk of loss with the business as usual stands at $697 billion. Whereas if we look at becoming more circular involving including all the strategies that I've spoken about today, the risk is mitigated, and it remains only at $382 billion by 2030. With this, I would like to kind of come to a closure, and I hope I'm able to keep my time. This is my book, which you could get on Amazon and could read about. And Shivani had talked about it, happens to be the first book in India. And these are the courses that the council provides. We are developing further courses on several sectors, and any enthusiast in this domain is most welcome to take up the courses as well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shalini. That was great. You have laid the groundwork and the base for a circular economy in plastics industry, which is very important from an India standpoint. And some things I wanted to mention from your talk, like we don't have a good alternative to plastic. So right now, I think plastic is the best option. And looking at the benefits, I think we need to dispose it of or maybe reuse it in a proper way and bring it to a circular economy concept, rather than speaking negative about it all the time, and bashing plastics. So that'll be a good idea. And one more thing you pointed out was lack of awareness of waste segregation at the source area. Definitely, by improving the awareness among consumers or among the industry also, we can help in plastic waste management, which will definitely go a long way, in improving all the negative effects of usage of plastics. And then you mentioned something about tracking and traceability and the use of AI. So, in terms of plastic waste management, I think a lot of software companies or a lot of AI companies are looking at providing the tracking and traceability, which will help improve the circular economy concepts, as and when it moves forward. And then you were talking about some material choices. Definitely there are companies who are looking into improving their materials, like which can cater to a circular economy concepts. And we at the panel also we have a lot of companies who will shed more light on this. Fine. Thank you so much, Shah.